This is the greatest night of the week, and so we are here. We're coming live to you from CJ Wallace's YouTube, and what we are going to be covering for you today is the amazing 5 C's of funding. And you're like, whoa, Ray, what is the 5 C's of funding? Well, let me dive into what those actually are. So what we are going to be covering for you today is cash flow, collateral, capacity. Those are the big 3 that everybody knows about, but what are the other 2? So we also have, we're going to talk about character and capacity. Yes, so we have character, capacity, cash flow, collateral, and credit. Those are the 5 C's of funding that we're going to be going through. And so each and every one is very important. And we're going to also talk about how when you don't have all 3 to qualify for an SBA loan, how you can get funding with maybe just one of them. Yes, if your business qualifies for just having one of these 3 or one of these items, we can definitely get you on board and get you going. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to start with just really diving in and making sure that you guys really have the information that you need. Now, why are we doing this today? Celebrating the business credit book kickoff. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, go over to Amazon Business Credit Playbook. Joseph Smith, Ronaldo Fleming. And so in here, remember, you're getting 30 of the vendors with underwriting guidelines. This is a must-have if you're building business credit. So we're going to dive into this, and we're going to talk about our direct funding path. Yes, this is something that we don't talk about all the time. We talk about building your business credit, but let's talk about how you actually get funding for your current situation, because that's very, very important. Now, what we can do is, because of CJ Wallace's channel, we are offering all of his YouTube people, that's you, a free funding blueprint assessment. Yes, this is usually a $300 service. And you're like, whoa, why would we give this away to you for free? So what we do is we look at your business, we analyze your business, and we will go out and source funds for you with no upfront fees. You may qualify for a whole lot you don't even realize. And it could be just because of the character of your business, the capacity, the cash flow, the credit, the collateral. We're going to cover those. And if you see something that we talk about today that you have in your existing business, let's talk about it. Let's go out there and see what kind of funds we can find for you. Because if we can help you go get the money you need, the more power that you will be able to share with the world. So the first C that we are going to be diving in today is character. And you're like, well, what is character, Ray? It comes down to, are you treating your business like a hobby or a legitimate business? Many times when we're starting up these businesses and we're running out of our house, we don't necessarily give it our all sometimes. Being an entrepreneur and having to set our own schedules gets a little bit difficult. Lenders want to know how serious we are. And so when we talk about building your business credit and we talk about all the fundamental steps that you need to actually go through to building a proper looking business, that's what we're talking about when it comes down to character. Being official, having the right email address, having the right phone number, having everything matching across the board, making sure that you have your DUNS number in place. All of these things are what it comes back to character. That's how you're going to separate yourself from who is a scam out there and who is a legitimate. You want to be classified as being a legitimate business, and that is how you're going to be doing it, is going through and making sure that you're structured properly. Now when you're sitting here and you're thinking, hey, yeah, Ray, I got to go get some money. Where do I go to get money? Well, where do we think about going to get money when every time we want to go get money? Yes, the bank. That is where we are going when we want to get money. Yet, obviously, if you've been around for a little bit or this is your first video, you understand that it is hard as a newbie business or even a seasoned business to go get funding from the bank. When we show up, we got to make sure everything is lining up on our applications. You know, our business name, our address, our phone number, our email, our website, our bank account. That's what we're putting on the loan application. That's the line of credit application. But then who do we have to get by? Yes, we have to get through the gatekeeper. And when we build business credit the legitimate way, the right way, that's how we get past the computer, because that's really what it is. I would say most approvals underneath $150,000 are instant, and they run through a computer algorithm. So if you can beat the computer algorithm, then you can get the funds and access the bank's money. That's the way it works. Now, so I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Joseph Smith here, and he's going to talk a little bit about capacity. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Joseph. He is called the money guy for a reason. This guy is an expert in raising capital, both through business credit and self-directed retirement funds. Him and his businesses have completed over 20 real estate deals in the last 2 years. They've raised over $1.25 million of capital, and that's not even including the hundreds of thousands of dollars through business credit as well. This guy is full of integrity. He comes with all the knowledge and wisdom that he's acquired for real estate investing over the last 6 years. This is a guy you definitely want to listen to. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Joseph Smith. All right.
Well, hello and welcome, YouTube. Wow, all right. I'm so excited here, man. We are using some pretty nifty computer graphics today. How cool is that? All right, but we're talking about now capacity. Now, here's the great thing. We're talking about all these 5 C's of lending, and really these first 2 that we're covering are just showing up. Really, the last 3 that we're really going to dive into are the practicals. And a lot of times when you go to a bank, and I've even seen on the YouTube site, hey, what about credit unions? Yes, this applies to credit unions too. They're always going to look, when you try to apply for money, they're looking for your cash flow, your credit, and your collateral. But to even just show up, to even try to apply, you're going to need character and you're going to need capacity, right? So that's why we added those 2 into this list, because we want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. If you're trying to get direct funding for your business, then we want to help you. In fact, we're really going to cover, or at least very briefly, about 27 different funding options that are available right now to you if you're a business owner. I'm super excited to get into this with you, so let's go ahead and take a look. So, capacity. Capacity really deals with a lot of times like how long have you been in business, right? But it's not just how long have you been in business, it's how long have you been in business in such a way as that you've been creating a transactional history of paying your bills on time, that you've been doing what's necessary to show people that you can come through and honor all of your debts. I like to use this analogy here of baseball. I mean, think of it in terms of, well, just trying to work out all the logistics here. So when you look at capacity here, think about baseball, right? You have a pitcher, right, and the pitcher's pitching to the catcher, and then you've got the batter, and then you've got the umpire. So the way it works, the way that you create capacity for your business is that you need to pay your bills on time. But it's not just that. It's how you pay your bills, and it's who's actually watching. So if your business is the pitcher, right, you pay your bills. So you're sending that payment, right? That's the ball, the payment, right on through to the catcher. Your creditors receive the payment, right? Now, the umpire. Take a look at the umpire. The umpire calls balls and strikes, right? Well, the umpire is the one officiating. So if you're trying to strike out your debt, if you're trying to eliminate that debt and pay off of those bills, you need an umpire calling the balls and the strikes, right? A ball would be a late payment. A strike would be an on-time payment. And so that's what you need. That's what you need to do. And so in this example here, your creditors are receiving the payments, but you need a reporting agency recording it. such as Dun & Bradstreet or Business Experian or Equifax Small Business, if they're not recording the fact that you're making positive payments, then you're just playing catch by yourself, right? What happened? I mean, you ever heard that expression, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, does it actually make a sound? If you pay your bills on time, but nobody's there recording it, did you actually get credit for on-time bill payment? No. So we have to help to establish capacity. You already have to have showed up with character. You have to start your business. Your business has to be legitimate. And then you have to get set up to the point where you have a business credit monitoring agency showing and recording that you're making your bills on time. That's incredibly important to establish your capacity. So let's take a look at this. So then once you've got that in place, it's all about just recording more and more transactional history. So the more accounts that you can open, and then the more payment transactions or experiences that you can have, this all builds your business credit. So some people are like, well, wait a minute, I thought I only need 5 payment transactions, or I only need, or is it, do I need 14 different lenders? Folks, it's a combination, right? I've had people feel like they're confused because they're like, wait a minute, I thought I only needed to get 5 payment transactions, or I need a total of 14. So once I do 14 different payment transactions, okay, let me try to break this down to you. It's right here on your screen. The greater your business capacity is based off of the more bills that you pay on time, and the more times that you pay your bills on time, and the more lenders that you're paying. So you need to have, when it comes to building business credit and establishing business credit, you need to have about 14 to 18 different in separate accounts that are open of people that are issuing you credit and that you're making monthly payments on. Now, to build your business credit, you need to record as many payment transactions as possible. So you want to get, so it's not just all of it at one lender. And then it's not just one lender, it's also the different credit monitoring bureaus, right? Because Dun & Bradstreet might have, you might have 14, 18 different lenders, but Dun & Bradstreet's only recording 14 of them. Business Experian might be recording 10 of them, and an Equifax Small Business might be tracking 8 of them. So you've got to continue to grow all of these payment experiences across the board on all of these different credit monitoring agencies. So I'm not trying to muddy the water here, because I know it sometimes is a little bit, it's a little bit difficult to understand, but we want to achieve 14 individual different accounts that we have with different lenders. We want to create multiple payment experience. So before we can add new lenders, we need to find initial starter vendors that will give us net 30 terms or net 55 terms that we will pay, and we will get hopefully about 5 or 6 of those reporting. That will give us enough transactional history to go out and get new accounts with new lenders. So our goal is to get to 14 total accounts. But the way you do that is by creating transactional history. You've got to grow your capacity. You've got to continue to pay all your bills on time, right? You start paying any of them, even just one, late, you have hurt your capacity. And that's not what we want to do. So we want to pay all of our bills on time. And as I say many times, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And well, for your business at least, to be late is fatal. There's no business credit for those who are late. So if that's you, then it's time to start working with the professionals and make sure we get that done correctly. All right. So I don't know, is it time for me to pass it off to Mr. Ray Fleming?
I'm not sure.
Well, let's take a look. Are we off to, yes, we're off to the cash flow based lending. I'm so excited for you guys to learn about this. And the person that I have is for you is Mr. Ray Fleming.
Woohoo! All right. Thank you, Joey. All right. Let's talk about cash flow, because cash flow is obviously the greatest thing ever. Oh, there we go. So how do we actually get cash flow funding? So we know what cash flow is. Cash flow is money that is coming into the business. So this is when approvals are based strictly on cash flow. You could not have, credit or assets, and literally if you have money coming into your business, we can get you money for that, or funding, I should say. Now, when you have a business bank account, you have to remember that managing that, being responsible with that, is the most important thing. Having consistent deposits, positive cash flow, low or zero, aim for zero insufficient fund fees, positive ending balances. We want to see that the business is progressing, the business is getting better. What about tax returns? A lot of funding agencies will look at tax returns. Do you have 1, 2, 3 years of tax returns that they could see? If you do, that is a lot of leverage that we can actually put into play. Increasing revenues and profits, so seeing that the business is growing and climbing over time. And we do want to be able to show that there's profits and not really losses. So this is one of those things that comes down to when we're business owners and in startup mode, we're talking about, hey, let's save as much in taxes as possible. Let's take our income down to zero so we have zero tax liability, which is great from a tax perspective, but horrible from a funding perspective. It's one of those things that when we are growing our business, we need to weigh the pros and cons. Sometimes taking it all the way down to zero income for your business is not the best thing to do. From a tax perspective, we're like, yeah, let's not pay any taxes. Perfect. But as we're moving forward, we want to start showing profit each year and increasing that revenue. So there's a strategy to be done there as well to make sure that you qualify for the funding that you actually need. Because when it comes down to it, nobody is going to lend to a business that's not making any money. So revenue, cash advances, merchant advances, these are probably the most popular and the most people qualify it. So as I'm going into, what I'm talking about now is specific different ways that you can get funding. So if you run payments, if you have a merchant account and you process even small payments, big payments, however it is, you run credit cards, you have Square account, PayPal, this is fast money, can be secured in 3 to 7 days. This is easy money, no credit score or collateral required. Some lenders don't even pull credit. Others will go as low as a $500 personal credit score. Now, a lot of this can be done without intermixing your personal credit as well, if you don't necessarily have the best score. But we'll talk about both and how we can actually use that. All that's actually needed for approval is 6 months bank statements or your merchant account processing statements. They are going to review it. They're going to look for stability. Are there consistent payments? Are there consistent charges being done? Loan amounts up to 12% of the annual revenue. So if you're making, say, $100,000 in a year, they're going to lend you up to what, $12,000 or so? Yeah. So daily paybacks, though, this is important. Daily paybacks. Now, how this actually works is kind of unique. So, for example, we have a lady that received funding. She has a nail business. So she's a nail tech, and she runs credit card payments for ladies that come in, get their nails done. She runs a payment. So instantly she got qualified for $6,000 just because she runs $40 payments. Now what happens is it's a set interest rate, and then over time they take a little bit each day. So as she said, say she processes $200 in sales, they'll take a small percentage of that to go towards the loan payback. It's a beautiful way that people can actually borrow money and then get it paid off effectively without really noticing the impact on a daily basis. Sometimes after you've built a relationship, they will offer weekly or even monthly paybacks. It depends on the risk. Everything in business is risk related. So if you want better interest rates, you need to reduce your business risk. If you want better terms, reduce the risk. Everything is directly correlated to risk. And that's why when we talk about, making sure everything lines up, you're Dun & Bradstreet, and everything is set up properly, that reduces risk. Now, there's a whole lot of different ways we can get cash flow funding, so let's dive into a little bit more than just say, as you're processing payments, these loans that you could get, they're very short term typically. 6 to 18 months is what the payback is. Can go as far as 3 years. Usually 3 to 9 months. That nail tech I was just talking about, 10 months. 10 months for the payback. Now, when you get a little bit longer, like I said, that's risk reduced. And loan amounts up to $500,000. So imagine that. If you're processing a lot of payments, $500,000. Lots of retail businesses easily qualify for this. Over 70% of people that use this and businesses that use this do come back. And the rates are anywhere from 10% all the way up to 65%. You're like, whoa, 65%? I thought a 14% was high. Yeah, 65%. Remember, this is directly correlated to risk. What I really, really like about when I see ranges like this, when I say, hey, up to $500,000, 10% up to 65% interest rates, that's a beautiful thing. That means so many people qualify. That's amazing. Depending on how risky your business is, you can qualify for this. Risk factors include time in business, the industry type, credit quality, bank account management, the ending balances. The fees and interest, of course, are always 100% tax deductible. Basically, they get the fees, they pay it back as, you basically can get it as a write-off, so affordability is really what matters most in this situation. And like I said, going back to the basics, and I know that there's some people on there that were like wanting the vendors, boom. Go pick this up at Amazon. We put this book into production. It's got 30 accounts in there. Underwriting guidelines for you guys. Underwriting guidelines in there. Whoops. Go in there. Check it out. Pick it up on Amazon. The business credit playbook. Easy.
I put the link in.
Oh, perfect. All right, let's talk about SBA loans. So SBA, what they actually do is they guarantee the loans. They are not the actual originator of the loans, but they are the most common used business lending tool, even though most people don't qualify for them. You need to be in business for 2 to 3 years, have both good personal and business financials, including tax returns. Profit and loss statements, balance sheets may be required for this. Business and personal banks statements are required. Collateral to offset the debt is required. Positive financials that show growth, increasing net profits is required. Lenders want to see the use of funds make sense. This is a real difficulty out there going through SBA, because the reason that people want to go to the SBA is when you have the backing of the SBA, you can get the funding. It's just very hard to get SBA to go in for you. What SBA, the Small Business Administration, is doing essentially, they're evaluating your situation and then guaranteeing that loan to a lender. So good credit is required. Good personal credit. At least a 620 personal credit score, more likely over 700 is better. Must have established business credit to get the SBSS in a score of at least 140 plus. That's powerful stuff there. You gotta have really good financials on this. You must have good bank credit with $10,000 or more in the bank account, and that you've had it in there for at least over 90 days. So these are some things, and especially when you're starting out, how do you even get these funds? Now, it's important that we talk about this because if you're an established business, you may qualify for this right now. If you're in startup mode, not so much. But we talk about all of these so you know where you fit in, you can get funding. Now, the other thing that I really like about SBA is you can get lines of credit. So credit lines through the SBA. There's what we call the builder's line. This is designed for general contractors or builders. for constructing, renovating commercial, residential buildings. Basically, we use these funds to pay for labor, for materials. Basically, the building project itself serves as the collateral, which is really cool. So it could be a loan where you get the money up front, or it could be a revolving type of line of credit. So that is one of those great things that you can get if you're into building apartments or renovating apartments, commercial buildings, things like that. That's something you want to look into. So small asset-based lines. Asset-based, I mean, there's the key right there. You need to have some assets. So asset-based revolving line of credit, we can get those up to $200,000. And this line operates just like a standard asset-based line, except that some of the stricter requirements are waived, provided that the business can consistently show repayment ability from their cash flow for the full amount. So a lot of times when we are looking for these lines of credit, there's a lot of requirements. But when you have an asset on the line and you can show that you have cash flow, it's a lot easier to qualify for these types of SBA credit lines. Now, all the other SBA requirements still fall into play. That's why they like these. Or that's why I should say the SBA likes these. And if you're one of those select few that qualify for this, then that's the way to go. Now, you may be moving into like the next level of business. You have had an established business for some time, and now you're looking for venture capital. If you have ever thought about journeying down that road, we need to talk, because those are rough waters and not necessarily the easiest to navigate, and we can help you navigate those. So what is investor or venture capital? Let's go through the definition. A venture capitalist is an investor who either provides capital to startup ventures or supports small companies that wish to expand but do not have access to equities market or the equities market. Venture capitalists are willing to invest in such companies because they can earn massive returns on their investments if these companies are successful. Often a fund is created through pooled money, sometimes individual investors. These funds come from venture capital firms themselves, wealthy people, pension funds, foundations, insurance carriers, corporate pension funds. If you've ever seen, Shark Tank, many of those are self-funded, but obviously they have other investors into their companies. Lots of regulations when you go to investing other people's money into other investments. But we can help you go out there and start to source and line up those pitches, actually. So venture capital funding stages. So there's several different times that you can actually get venture capital. The very first round is called the seed round or seed funding. This is the earliest round of financing needed to basically prove a new idea. Funding often comes from angel investors. So if you've heard of angel investors, or equity crowdfunding, different things like that, those are ways that you can usually start up. Now, that's when you are moving into just with an idea. Next phase is the actual startup phase. So this is the early stage where your company or a firm would need funding for their expenses for marketing and product development. So they are just in the very early stages of creating. Now, what you might have always heard is round A or series A or the growth phase. Now these are, you're making sales. You got you have a little bit that's taking place, but early sales and manufacturing, we need funds for that. This is typically where venture capital will start to enter the picture. Series A is essentially the first institutional round. Here is where most companies will have the most growth. So they're just now starting out, they're starting to sell some products, and they need money to go out there and expand. That's really where most of venture capital starts to come into play. Of course, after that's, that expansive, Series A round, there's the second round of funding. So this is working capital for early stage companies which are selling products but not yet turning a profit. So right now we're just trying to recoup. Basically everything that's made is turned back in to get more product. So after that, Then there's the expansion phase, aka the mezzanine financing stage. It is when your business is profitable. When you are now becoming profitable, that's the next phase. So after that, once you're already profitable, then there's the bridge. This is where, startup seeks funding between, really any of these full venture capital rounds where you can actually start to get some bridge financing in there. Aim to raise smaller amounts of money instead of a full round. Usually the existing investors who you've already raised capital from will participate in that. The venture capital usually leaves via secondary sale or an initial public offering or an acquisition. They want to get paid back in 3 to 5 years. So if somebody's investing through venture capital, they want to make sure that their money comes back with friends in 3 to 5 years. If you can but show them a plan on how that will happen, then that's when you're looking for, you're going to have some success. All right, so that wraps me up for cash flow. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mr. Joseph Smith over here, and he can touch base on credit.
All right. Well, guys, we're just covering so many great things right now. I mean, who would have thought that there's so much revenue-based lending available? Now, we talk about that a lot of times people get hung up when they're trying to get funding as trying to go for all of these. You need cash flow, you need credit, you need collateral. And a lot of times the lenders, credit unions, they're going to ask you for all of that. That's why there's also secondary type of lenders, and that's a lot of the things. We have a mixed bag here. We're talking about traditional lending as well as secondary lending. So a lot of different lenders out there will lend just based off of one of these aspects. If you have cash flow, right, but you don't have credit, you don't have any collateral, they will lend to you. If you have credit, whether it's personal credit or business credit, there are lenders that will lend to you in that space. And if you have collateral but you don't have cash flow or credit, there are plenty of lenders that will lend to you based off of the type of collateral that's out there. And we're diving into all of this. So let's talk about credit here, because there is this is stuff that we obviously spend a lot of time on. But when we're talking about credit-based financing, we're usually talking about something that I call the credit card stacking method. It's a way, because you can go out and apply for credit, right? I mean, you've done it before. You probably have credit cards. And there's a process of filling out an application and going through a credit check. Some kind of hard pull or inquiry was done, and now you've got some credit. But here's the issue is you can only do that so many times before you can't actually get any more credit. So you might apply to your first lender, and then you get approved. Great. You apply to the second lender, and you get approved. And then the third lender doesn't either approve you, or they approve you for a very small amount. And then after that, you just start getting denials. And that can be very frustrating when you're trying to get access to credit, especially if you have credit, right? I mean, so a lot of times people talk about, well, I don't want my credit score to go down. Well, really, what is your credit score? But it's a track record of how well you work with the different lending institutions that are out there. So when you go and you apply for and you obtain new credit, that's always going to make your credit score go down. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if in return for cashing in on that credit, so to speak, that credit score, you were able to get a significant amount of credit extended to you that you can now use. If your credit score goes down based off of not paying your bills on time or your utilization's too high, well, I mean, that's something that needs to be obviously immediately remedied. But if we only really want to use our credit when we know that we can cash it in for something of value to us. So when we're talking about the credit card stacking method, here's what's awesome. we work with our lenders, our partners, really, and our loan officers that we have working here with us, to go out and do what's called use a computer algorithm that helps you apply for multiple credit cards and lines of credit simultaneously. So what does that mean? So based off of what your current FICO score is at TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, whatever that might be, our computer matches you up with the lenders that are most likely to lend to you based off of your scores. And based off of that, we also look at how do different lenders actually pull your credit. So there are hard inquiries, which I'm sure you're aware of. That's immediate, that immediately shows up on your credit report. There's also what are called soft inquiries or soft pulls, where it doesn't show up on your inquiry, on your credit report. And then there's what are called batch pulls. So those are credit inquiries that start off as a soft inquiry, but then later, when a certain number of clients have been reached, they all batch, which means the credit issuers all put those hard inquiries, turn those soft inquiries into hard inquiries. That could take a week, that could be 2 weeks. It's different for each lender. So here's what our credit card stacking method does. We track all the approvals and all the different because credit issuers don't all check the same scores. Some check TransUnion, some check Equifax. So we track, who do they check? How do they pull the credit? I mean, how do they pull your credit? Is it a hard pull, batch pull? Is it a soft pull? And then we put this all together with our computer algorithm, match it up to your personal credit scores. And what that has the effect of doing is we can apply for 8, 10, 12, 14 different credit cards all at one time with showing that that's our initial application, or that's our initial attempt to get credit. So for you doing this on your own, you apply for your first credit card and you get approved, but that was your first attempt, so that's your first pull. So now you've got one hard inquiry on your record. You do the next one, you pick up another hard inquiry. By the time you reach 3 or 4 inquiries, you're going to start getting denials. The credit card stacking method, this credit-based financing that we use, employs a strategy that allows us to apply to multiple lenders all at the same time. And we really place the soft pulls, then the batch pulls, and then the hard pulls, so that we can get the most approvals in the highest amount for you possible. So what does that mean? It usually means that you're going to get approved if you meet the criteria, but you'll get approved, and not for 1 or 2 credit cards, but for maybe 5, 6, 7, or 8 credit cards. And so it just has the ability to help us get help us get better results for our clients that we work with. So as you can see, typically just for a standard credit card that you're applying for on your personal side, there are credit issuers out there that they want to see a minimum 650 credit score, and if you want to get 0% interest rate, then they want to see maybe a 680 credit score or better. So that's all. We're going to talk a little bit about personal, and we're going to talk a little bit about corporate credit as well. So let's dive into this. So there really is 2 ways to look at this. So we're going to look at personal credit cards first. And so when you're trying to apply for a personal credit card, you can do so in 2 ways. You're either applying for a personal credit card, obviously for yourself, or you might be trying to give your business a personal guarantee. Now, I know there's a lot of folks that do that, and they leverage their personal credit, and frankly, they're sick and tired of doing that because they have maxed out their ability. And that's why business credit offers a real solution to those folks, because you can go out and, by building your business credit, you can secure corporate credit that is based off of your EIN number, and it doesn't require a personal guarantee. But I want to cover the full gambit that's here, because some people don't know about personally guaranteeing credit. So we really want to just talk about when you seek a personal credit card that you're guaranteeing for a business, you're going to get approved, or you're looking to get approvals for somewhere between $10,000 maybe up to $150,000. Now, this is always going to be about 5 times more than what you have on your personal side. So let's say your highest limit that you have on your personal side, your credit card. Let's say you have a $10,000 limit on one of your credit cards. Well, that means if you go to and you qualify and you personally guarantee a business to get a business credit card with a personal guarantee, that means you could get potentially $50,000, right? With the same credit that for you on the personal side, you only have a $10,000 limit, but for the business you can get much, much more. So keep in mind that, and this is going to be the same you're going to see across the board, but I already talked about that the credit card stacking method, you get at least 5 cards. Sometimes we see more, 6, 7 or so. But it's always going to be 0% introductory rates. Now, on the personal side, you're going to see that usually for 6 to 18 months. On the business side, and this will probably be on one of the future slides here, but we see those approvals actually going for 12 to 48 months for those corporate cards. Now, once the introductory rate is over, then you're going to have an interest amount of somewhere between 5 to 25%. That's just industry standard. That's normal, and that's really going to be based off of the strength of your finances. Really, risk is always based off of your payment history, your utilization, your mix of accounts, your age of your accounts. All of those are going to determine whether or not you get a 5%, a low interest rate, or a 25% interest rate. It really just depends. So the better your personal finances are when guaranteeing a card is going to determine what that interest rate will be. All right. So let's continue on talking about the personal credit here, because there's a little more to it. Because when using this credit card stacking method, there is what we call a success-based fee. Just like with any type of loan or any type of line of credit that you're applying for, there's usually an origination fee, there's setup fees, all these different fees are charged. Using the credit card stacking method and the complex matching algorithm that we use, that's a service that's employed by our loan officers. So they're going to find you those funds, but if you're looking for less than 15,000, well, then probably they're going to charge 12% of what they find, to make it worth their while. But if you're looking for 25, 50, 150,000 or more, then you probably they'll go lower than that 10%. They'll probably go to 8 or 9%. It'll be somewhere around there. But it's always going to be based off of the amount of effort and work that they're putting into that. So again, this is just if you're trying to use personal credit to get the cards. 650 credit scores. Obviously, utilization needs to be under 50%. If you don't know what utilization is, it's very simple. If you have a credit card with a limit of $1,000 on it and you've maxed it out, so you have a balance of $1,000, you're at 100% utilization. If you have a $500 balance on that card, you're at 50% utilization. So you want to keep the utilization of your credit, of these credit cards, your revolving credit, under 50%. We want to see less than 8 inquiries in the last 6 months. Obviously, getting personal credit cards that you can use for your business is an option for a lot of folks. But getting not just personal credit cards for your business, but if you can get the business cards, right? These are business credit cards so what's the difference between a personal credit card and a business credit card? I mean, if they're both being used for the business. Well, with the business, with the personal cards, it reports to the personal credit bureaus, right? So yeah, you're using the money for your business, but everything that you do shows up in your FICO score, shows up with TransUnion, Equifax, and shows up with Experian. When you personally guarantee a business credit card, here's the difference. Now, a lot of people don't know which cards do what, and there's some confusion because even the card issuers themselves will say, oh yeah, they report to the credit bureaus or the business credit bureaus only. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But the difference between getting personally guaranteed cards that report, just a personal card, that reports to your personal, your FICO credit scores. The unsecured business credit cards that you personally guarantee report only to the business credit bureaus. So the only impact on the on your personal side are the inquiries used to obtain the credit. And so after that, anything that you do on those cards, only the reporting, the utilization, all of that, the on time, the payment history, all of that is only on the reports on the business side, which is very advantageous because if you can get business credit cards that you personally guarantee that only report on the business side, then that's sort of the best of both worlds. If you have good business credit, but you don't want to get it all intermixed and intertwined with the business, then it's great to use that. Maybe you do get a couple of inquiries, but they drop off after 6 months. So you use get some personal inquiries to obtain some business credit, but it only reports to the business side. And so that's a huge boost to a business when they're able to acquire credit in that way. So when you apply for a business credit card in this manner that reports only to the business credit bureaus, there's a little bit higher requirements than just getting a personal credit card that you use for your business that reports to the personal bureaus. So in this case, it's still you're looking for 10,000 to 150,000, but your approval amounts are going to be anywhere from 5 to 8 times now than what your personal limit was. So we talked about, well, what if you had a 10,000 limit? Well, if you have a $10,000 limit and your credit is and you qualify for this, we're talking about getting potentially like a minimum of 80,000, maybe up to 150,000 in business credit cards. So these only report to the business credit reporting agencies, and this is something that, again, as we talk about, is a credit card stacking method. So you're getting multiple cards. And here's another thing to keep in mind. When you use this method and you get multiple cards, it's important to look at which cards you want to get because there's always points and incentives based on this. Do you like to fly? You can get miles. Do you go to hotels, getting points towards future hotel stays? Finding the right points for your business or what you like to do is huge because those benefits are going to rack up because you're going to use the credit for your business anyway. And then as you make the payments and you grow these points, the perks become endless. So this is really a win-win. Again, we're talking about 0% interest rates, 6 to 18 months. Again, also some of these are anywhere from 12 to 48 months. And then after the introductory rate, we see anywhere from 5 to 25% interest rates after that. Now, again, keep in mind that there is success-based fees built into this, same as before, 10 to 12%. It really depends on how much you're applying for. The more you apply for, the lower the fee is, right? And so in the fee, you're talking about, well, how do you pay the fee? Do you have to pay that up front? No. What happens is nothing's charged up front. If they find you the funds and then you get access to the cards, then you'll get invoiced after you actually have the credit cards in hand. Then you pay the invoice with the credit card that you have already obtained. So it's very easy. So, but keep in mind that the credit scores that we're looking for in this case are not like the personal credit cards. In this case, for these business credit cards, we're looking for a 680 credit score or better. And then utilization, we're looking for it to be under 30% in this case. So again, slightly higher criteria, but the results are even more amazing. Getting access to $150,000 and lines of credit for your business that you personally guarantee, that doesn't show up on your personal credit, right? This is huge. So for some people this is a great option. And how long does this take? Well, if you're very proactive and you fill out all the paperwork and you're very responsive with the loan officers, it could be done in 3 weeks. On average, we see it take about 4 to 6 weeks because people, things come up and people don't always get all their paperwork in promptly. But we're going to work with you. Our loan officers are going to work with you hand in hand and make sure that this gets done. But also keep in mind that before, when we were looking at those personal cards, they wanted less than 8 inquiries. Well, for these unsecured business credit cards, we want less than 4 inquiries in the past 6 months. So again, this is for people who have pretty good, you've got to have good credit to do this, but I want you to consider that this is a great way, one of the best ways to finance your business. And I believe on the next slide here, we're really going to dive into why, because some people don't have the ability, or because of the personal credit to do this. But again, you don't have to have this great credit score. There are a lot of people that we work with who have a brother, a sister, an uncle, a mom and dad, a cousin, somebody who really believes in your business or your dream or your idea, and they would love to help, but they don't have any money. But they happen to have good credit. Well, this is where people can really utilize this strategy, because the personal guarantee doesn't have to come from you. Think about co-signing for a car loan, right? You can have somebody co-sign for an auto loan for you, but it's all going to be in your name and you have to make all the payments. Still, a lot of people are, they're very concerned about giving out a personal guarantee, because obviously if something goes wrong, and you don't pay your bills or the business goes bankrupt, well, then the credit issuers are going to come after them to pay the bills. So what reassurance can you give an investor like that? Well, with our system that we use, if you can build your business credit so that you have an excellent business credit rating and you don't need personally guarantee funds, what you can do, that process with our system takes 6 to 12 months. Once you have an excellent business credit rating, you can go out and go through the process of reassessing all of these personally guaranteed accounts and have the personal guarantees removed. It's a simple process. It takes about, like I said, it could take you 6 to 12 months to build an excellent business credit rating, and then it could take you're basically asking somebody, if you're serious and you're going to follow the system, you're asking for somebody to give you a personal guarantee for 1 year, for up to 1 year, and then you're going to have the personal guarantee removed. That gives people a lot more peace of mind, knowing that they're not on the hook forever for everything, but for 1 year. And so there's a lot of things that can be negotiated, because if you utilize their great credit score to access a lot of funds, you can help people, give people a return on their investment if that's what they're looking for. Or there's so many different ways. We really can't go into all of it here, but be creative, be imaginative. Find a way to help meet somebody else's needs that they have, or solve a problem that they have, and see if they can help you solve a problem that you have. Also, with the personal guarantees in this program, the credit card stacking, we have the ability to do rapid rescoring. And what does that mean? So it means, like, let's say initially they check your credit and they find that, your utilization isn't where it needs to be, or usually it's with the utilization. So what does that mean? Well, if you have applied for a card and you get denied, you usually have to wait 30 days, sometimes 60 days before you can apply again. But not with these business credit cards. We have what's called a rapid rescore, which allows us to, if there was an issue, say with the utilization, let's go correct it. Sometimes there are loans available, short gap funding, we're talking about 30-day loan, where you can get a small loan to pay down your cards. So to bring that utilization under the 30% that we were talking about. And let's say that gives you access to $150,000, $200,000, but you were, I don't know, everybody's situation is different, but let's say you just were over $30,000. If you could pay off $30,000 on your credit cards, that would put you under the 30% threshold, and then you get access to $150,000, $200,000. You can see how it's very easy then to pay off that 30-day loan and still have access to a lot of capital for your business. Also, want you to know, excuse me, we have a hybrid program. And the hybrid program I'm super excited about because not a lot of people know the difference between a line of credit and credit cards. People use those, they intermix it all the time. What's a line of credit and what's a credit card? Well, the best way for me to explain it is this. If you want money, if you need cash and you have a credit card, how do you get cash off of a credit card? You have to do a cash advance, right? And what happens to your interest rate? It goes up. It could go up to like 30%, 25, 30%, right? That's cash advance. And let's say your limit is $10,000 on the card. Well, they're not going to give you all 10,000. You might be able to get 2,500 or 3,000, right? You can only get up to about a third of your limit. So that's a limit to credit cards, is you can't get access to the cash if that's what you need. Now, lines of credit. Why are lines of credit great? Because when you get a line of credit, whether it's a personal line of credit or a home equity line of credit or any type of line of credit, the great thing about those lines of credit is if you need access to the cash, you can get all of the cash. So if you have a $20,000 personal line of credit, you can pull out all of the cash, and it's usually at the interest rate. So let's say right now we're seeing average interest rates on a line of credit being between 12 to 15%. Well, if you're going to pull out all the cash out of the line of credit, that's fine. I mean, borrowing that money at 12, 15%, that's much better than pulling the cash advance on a credit card at 30%. Now, but credit cards have advantages too, because you get that 0% introductory rate, right, for 6 to 18 months, maybe 12 to 48 months. Now, a hybrid account are credit cards that give you lines of credit attached to them. They're awesome because you can get an introductory rate of 0% for 6 to 12 months. And you have the cash out capability with these cards. That's what's amazing, because imagine being able, let's say it's an $8,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 hybrid account. So you can pull the money out at 0% interest. Guys, hybrid accounts blow my mind, but do you know where to look for those accounts? Who offers them? Which issuers? Well, that's why you want to be working with us and our loan officers, because we can look for those accounts to see if you qualify and apply specifically for those accounts. So, guys, there's so much going on here. But obviously, the end goal is to get to the point where you have corporate credit. Because when you have corporate credit, what are we talking about? When your business credit is so strong that you don't need to give it a personal guarantee. It's like when the teenager grows up and you don't have to co-sign for the car anymore, right? Corporate credit, well, how do you get corporate credit? It's going through the business credit building process. It's when your business credit is so strong because you have over 14 accounts reporting positively and you have 50,000 or more in available lines of credit, right? You don't need a personal guarantee for these type of cards. And you can go out and apply just off the strength of your EIN. That's what's so powerful. And how do you do that? Well, it starts with building the starter vendor accounts, right? You need at least 5. I think personally you should have 6, because the stronger your base is when you start building credit, the better. But then you go from there to retail credit. Now, sometimes to get the store credit, they're going to put you on a net 30 for a trial period before they give you the revolving account. And that's fine too. So, because you've already worked with net 30s and net 55s, so you can do that for a trial period of a couple months. And then you get your revolving store card. Then from there you go on to fuel cards, fleet cards, vehicle maintenance, auto vehicle financing. And then lastly, it's getting the unsecured high limit credit cards. Some of those are the store cards that you used before, just slapping a Visa or MasterCard label on those, but also some of those are applying for new actual unsecured lines of credit. And that can all be done when you excuse me, when you build up to 14 lines of credit, different issuers that are all extending you credit, and they've been reporting positively for 6 to 12 months. Now you have excellent business credit, and now the quality of your credit is so good that you don't need personal guarantees. It is exactly where you want to be. And if you've already done that, congratulations. Keep it going, because that's just the start. We're going to be talking about collateral-based lending, and this is where what do you do once you have excellent business credit? Well, you go out and you secure more credit, more loans. And that's what Ray is going to talk about next. But guys, I really love giving you guys these options and learning about all these different ways that you can fund your business and grow it. And if this is something, anything that I've mentioned is something that you're excited about, make sure that you go ahead and call the phone number on your screen and set up a time to meet with us, and let's take you through the process. Let's get a financial blueprint done so that we can see what you can qualify for, what you can actually get. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to Ray Fleming and let him close out the night. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Maybe I need to talk about peer-to-peer lending. Before I do that, I'm sorry. I'm so used to talking about credit, I always forget to talk about peer-to-peer lending. Guys, this is just another amazing opportunity to combine two different elements. If you have both cash flow and credit, so you have a business that's generating some revenue, and you have either personal credit or business credit, you can start getting some access to capital from peer-to-peer lending groups. Here's what's great is that the fees, they're great. They can range anywhere from 0.5 percentage point to 10%. And you can get loans for 1 to 5 years. And the loan amounts range anywhere from $25,000 to $500,000. And I love seeing huge ranges, because that means if you see a huge range like that, what does that mean? That means that there's a program for everybody. So if your credit isn't as well as you would like it to be, no problem. Then there's a program for you. The fee might be a little bit higher, a higher interest rate. The term might be a little bit shorter, and the loan might be a little bit smaller, but there's something for you. And the better your credit, the lower the rate, the longer the term, and the more money that's extended. But the fact that there is a range there means that they're willing to work with just about anybody, right? So let's also talk about term loans. What's a term loan? I mean, it's just your average loan. Different secondary lenders will issue you loans, and look, the requirement on credit is really easy, because they're not basing it off of cash flow, collateral, and credit. They're really just looking at what is your actual credit. That's what they're going to base stuff off of. So. A 625 FICO, I mean, that's what they say on the application. We've seen higher results with people who have a 700 credit score or better, but they want to see that you've been in business for 1 year, that you're bringing in $10,000 a month in revenue. And how do you verify that? Well, you can use tax returns that show your profit. That's the best way to do it. But sometimes there's what's called bank statement loans or P&L loans, right? That they'll base it off of what your profit and loss is that you can generate. But I mean, the preferred method is if you can show it through a tax return, then that's the best way to go. And that's obviously, let me bring that up. That's an issue because there's some people that try to write everything off and not pay anything in taxes. It's great when you can mitigate your tax liability that way. But if you can't and you end up you do have to pay taxes and you're like, oh man, hey, no, don't sweat it. Because if you had to pay taxes, that means you made money, and that's good. Let's go find you a term loan, and maybe what you'll find out is that you paid taxes, and that ended up being a good thing because that was what helped qualify you for a term loan, right? So, I mean, you just need basic good credit, not much more than that is required. But with the term loans, let's talk about what can you get? Well, these are very flexible because again, they're coming from secondary lenders. So I talked about there are some ways where you can get it based off of bank statements or P&Ls, but these are loans that could go up to 30 years, and these are loans that could be in the millions, right? We've seen people get these anywhere 500,000 to 15,000 or 15 million, excuse me. Interest rates will vary 8 to 15%. Again, they're looking for that you have some credit, right? And they want to see some cash flow, and the way you verify that you made that cash flow is usually from the way you've run your you have bank statements. It's very you can verify that with tax returns, but keep in mind your bank rating is very important here, because your bank rating is the reason why your bank rating is so important is because you can't have NSF fees. You've got to always have positive balances. You've got to show that you have 6 or more deposits coming in every month, and these are just good business practices. But to get access to term-based loans from secondary lenders, that's huge because who are these lenders? Well, trust me, give us a call. Let's get you in touch with one of our loan officers, and let's see if you qualify. Let's get you started. Now we're going to be talking about next collateral. Sorry, I jumped the gun there a bit, but I want Ray to come in because Ray is really the expert. He's worked with a lot of people to help them get a lot of collateral-based funding. So without any further ado, Mr. Ray Fleming.
Woo! All right. Thank you, Joseph. Man, didn't Joseph do such a fantastic job over on credit? Who knew that there was so much that could be done with credit? It is absolutely so important and super powerful, especially when you intermix it with your business credit. And then, oh man, the ability to get the personal guarantee removed, whoo, that's just out of control. Now that is one way that you can sell that idea to a credit partner. Absolutely amazing. Don't forget, free blueprint funding assessments we are doing for CJ Wallace's channel right now. Go to wiseguysandties.com, fill out the consult form. Also, you can call 888-524-9273. Yes. All right. So let's dive into collateral. What do we have out there that we could use as collateral? Pretty much anything. You can leverage so much stuff. It's ridiculous. So let's talk about this as well. So as far as business funding, what is acceptable? So for the business collateral, we could use accounts receivables. So money that's coming into you. Purchase orders. Somebody's placed a huge order for you, we can fund up to usually 95%. Book of business, insurance agents out there. Equipment inventory. Commercial real estate. Or commercial vehicles. That's something to think about. Now, you could also put some personal assets up as collateral as well. Stocks, bonds, other securities, 401ks, IRAs, residential real estate, if you're going to be doing some flips. And also, it's really the way that you're going to be able to unlock the funds is, looking at one of these avenues that you have. Now we're going to just this is just a brief overview. We're going to dive into this because there is so many ins and outs and things that you may not have even ever thought about. But if you are into real estate, a lot of us, in business owners,
see the value in creating money and storing in real estate. Make our money doing whatever the business is, store it in real estate. Or you're just a straight real estate investor. You've probably heard about hard money. You can get this fast for the purposes of acquiring and rehabbing real estate. Lenders will loan 55% to 80% LTV, so loan to the value of the property. Secured by a deed of trust in first position. Terms are usually 6 months with extensions available for certain fees, ranging in prices 6% to 14% typically. I know a lot of people start around 14%, but it's really correlated to risk. Remember that you want lower interest rates, reduce the risk. Points anywhere from 0 to 6 points upfront or after. There's monthly payments. There's all sorts of different ways to do this. Now we can do this without personal credit checks. Also, the house is the collateral. That's what they're looking at. So the loans are based off of basically the value of the property, the after repair value as well. The rehabbing and the reselling experience of the borrower. So if you have no experience, you're going to pay a little bit more, and they're going to watch you a little bit closer. So after you've done a couple deals with them, then you're going to get better terms. Funds are placed into an escrow account and then released in draws as really as work is performed. They have requirements many times of, okay, after this much is completed, then we'll release more. It's easy to get. So if you're running into the obstacle, now of course I never recommend you diving into real estate without actually knowing what you're doing, which is a whole nother thing that we do. We specialize every single week. We specialize in business funding. That's what we specialize in. But some of you may not know that we have a meetup that we do every single week because we ourselves are real estate investors. So if you have any questions about how to get into real estate, where to get started, CJ Wallace is a seasoned real estate investor. We can point you in the right direction, point you to resources that we've used with success. So commercial real estate funding, loans $75,000 to $20 million, 55 to 65% loan to value. Now you're going to need a little bit more here. They're wanting to see 2 years of your financials, tax returns, profit and loss statements, debt schedules. Your business must have cash flow and show they can make those payments. But this is the cool thing. A lot of times on commercial real estate, you can use the asset that you're purchasing as guarantees for the payments. And like I said, if you're looking down this, let's sit down and go deeper down this rabbit hole on a one-on-one conversation, because it really just depends on what you're looking into doing, and it varies across the board. Personal credit, want to see that you at least have a 650 personal credit score, because they're going to want you to guarantee that. And you get a lot better interest rates, 4 to 5% interest rates for the purchase and refinance. You can also refinance multiple residential properties. So if you have over 5 residential properties, you can bundle all that up into a commercial refinance loan. Now, one thing I like to talk about at this point is, as we talk about your profit and loss statements, your tax returns, your financials, and making sure that you're taking very good care of them, what are lenders looking for? This is very important. So as they're asking for documentation, there's something that they're looking for. And as we're going through our life and our business, we need to think about this now, even if we're not looking for funding now. As we make things, as we're making our business grow, and as we're doing transactions, and we're taking care of our business, and we're taking care of our bank account, we need to think about how this is going to look in the future, right? Everything we talk about is making sure that we're reflecting on what we're doing as a business. I talk a lot about how we all probably looked in a mirror this morning, yet we aren't looking through the lens of our business into a mirror. We have to do some reflection on that business. We need to make sure that every day we are putting our best foot forward in our business, because it's going to come around. Sometime in the future, when you're looking for those funds, they're going to look back and see what your behaviors were. Now, do you need some vehicles? Because that's something else we can talk about. Commercial vehicle funding. Get money to purchase commercial vehicles. This is also a step in the business credit builder, where in our 4th round of funding, we can work on vehicle financing. You don't have good personal credit? Let's work on that. And let's figure out a way to build up your business credit so you can get the funding you need for just trucks. But then this is more of like for larger equipment. So buses, trucks, emergency vehicles, and more. You can borrow against free and clear vehicles. So remember, building business credit, like I said, it can help you finance without a personal guarantee. So, diving more, we have accounts receivables funding. This is something that you are going to really love. It's the number one type of asset-based lending, bar none. Like, it gets utilized by so many businesses, you have no idea. So receivables are used as the collateral. Loans amounts from $5,000 to $20 million. Up to 90% of the receivables can be advanced within 24 hours. 4% is common for the fees on this. No personal credit, no business credit scores needed to qualify. And you're like, whoa, I don't need any credit score on anywhere? No. Now this is the kicker. The receivables must be coming from another business or government agency. That other business must be in business for at least 1 year to qualify, and you need to be in business for at least 1 year to qualify. So there's that small requirement. Medical receivables can qualify with construction, also conventional receivables. So they are what they're going to do when they're looking at this type of funding in the accounts receivable funding, they're looking at the other business who owes you that money. So that's something to think about. Who owes you money, and are they credible? And if they look credible and they're going to pay you what you're due, then you can get funding on that. Next, you got a good product. You got a somebody's placing a huge order. You know, let's say you got an item and somebody wants 500,000 of them, and it's going to cost you $500,000 to produce that. Well, you have a purchase order for that. Up to 95% of that purchase order could be advanced. 5% fee. Anything over $5,000, you know, the rates are anywhere from 1 to 4%. No personal credit checks, no business credit scores to qualify. Letter of credit is issued initially. It can't be for things that are not produced yet. So it has to be an actual product that's full through production. That's one of the kickers. But you have something that needs to be fulfilled, let's get you the funds for that. Inventory funding. So let's say you already have a warehouse full of stuff. Well, the amounts are anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. This comes in a revolving line of credit, 2 to 5%. Once again, no personal, no business credit scores needed to qualify. You must have, though, a value on that inventory of minimum $500,000. So, you have $500,000 worth of inventory. Well, let's talk about getting you $250,000 line of credit. Loans as high as 50% of what you have in the inventory. It's powerful stuff. So this is a huge helper for those companies that have expanded. You know, maybe something went viral on social media and they stocked a warehouse, but now they got to reinvest into marketing to keep pushing the products, and they don't have any money. It's all tied up in the products. This is a great option for them. Or for you. If that falls under you, reach out to us. Let's figure out what your inventory looks like and how we can collateralize that for you. Number one way that insurance agents buy other businesses is by collateralizing the book of business. So when you get registered with an agent and insurance agent, and you actually start a policy, they are starting to receive commissions on that, and that goes into what's called their book of business. They can use their book of business in those payments that are supposed to be received as collateral. Now, this is for insurance agents only. These loans can be anywhere from 3 to 10 years. Take the prime rate, add either 4 to 9% on top of that. Small credit scores, they're going to look at your personal credit, but at least a 520 personal credit score. Now this is what's really cool. Up to 120% of the surrender value can be funded. Now this is the unfortunate thing. If you're working for State Farm agents, they do not, or if you're a State Farm agent, you do not, as you know, you don't own your book of business. Now there are other companies out there, you know, like was it PHP, you know, like People Helping People, you know, that they're building a book of business, but that's a company book. So you don't actually have any ownership in that. And if you're some type of other MLM that sells insurance products, most likely you're not actually building a book of business. So this is something, if you're looking into this, to figure out exactly where you fall into that. And if you need help with that, just trying to figure out if you even qualify, of course, 888-524-9273, give us a call. Oh boy, I bet you didn't know that so many different things could actually be collateralized. I mean, equipment, the chairs I'm sitting in. So usually this is like bigger equipment, machinery. We're looking at like construction equipment. You have large industrial machines, medical equipment, surveying equipment. So startups can qualify. That's what's really great. So maybe a lot of times businesses, even in startup mode, they've acquired stuff. You know, you personally have, you know, invested and gotten some startup equipment. These amounts range anywhere from $10,000 all the way to $20 million. So huge range. And that's what we're talking about, loving these big ranges. Rates 5% all the way to 55%. Small personal credit score 580 or higher. 650 is preferred for financing and required for leasing. But down payments can be as low as your first and last month's payments. So let's say you got to get some of this equipment. This is a great option for you, especially since you're starting out. Now, let's say you already have the equipment. You've already purchased this equipment. This equipment, let's say you got an old tractor. So maybe not you. Maybe you have a grandpa who has a farm and has an old tractor he's not even using anymore. You know, so you can borrow up to 50% of the equipment's value. Got a $20,000 tractor? You could get 10 grand off of that. Startups can qualify the amounts of $10,000 to $20 million. Once again, huge ranges. 12 months to 48-month terms, 5% to 55%. We're looking for, you know, ideally a 650 personal credit score. So this is an amazing option for some of you that may have access to some equipment and don't know how to leverage it. Next, we got securities. This is going to be more on like the personal side. So you have built up, you know, working at a, working throughout your life. So you have stocks, bonds, 401ks, IRAs, and now you're venturing into being a business owner. You can borrow up to 90% of that stock value. 5-year loans, or you could turn it into a credit line. Usually about 2% on top of, take the prime rate, add 2%, so anywhere from usually 4 to 6% interest rates. No personal credit requirements. Most stocks and securities are accepted. Basically, you just need an application and your stock statement. That's all you really need to apply. So that can be something that is leveraged. 401k, IRAs. So you can borrow up to 100% of a 401k or an IRA value. 5-year loan terms, you know, it's the same situation. We're looking at 4 to 6% interest rate. No FICO requirements, so no personal credit checks on this. Now they're going to have a fee in there, so it's, you know, a loan origination fee. For these types of funding, where you're going to get, you know, up to 100% of your 401k IRA, there's a $1,995 fee that's just rolled into the loan. So all loans really have like origination fees, and that's what the fee is on this. And it's really, so you could take your funds and go do what you need to do with them. So lots of times if you're still at a job and you can't access your money or roll it into a self-directed account, you could use that to, say, go buy a rental property or whatever it is that you're looking to do for your business, start up a business. There's a lot of possibilities there. Oh man, we have talked about so much today, and I'm just telling you, folks, cash flow, collateral, credit, character, capacity, any of these things, let's talk about how to leverage that to your advantage. But the great thing about what we do is business credit, the way you build business credit, 6 to 12 months, gaining access to $50,000 in lines of credit and 14 accounts, that's the catch-all. If you don't have any cash flow, you don't have personal credit, you don't have collateral, which is all required for, other types of approvals. It's not required for these approvals on business credit. Joseph talked extensively about credit and utilizing a good business credit score to get what you need get what you need done. That is powerful stuff. Now, true business credit only reports to the business credit reporting agencies. Utilization does not affect your personal score on true business credit. Real business credit inquiries don't show up on your personal credit. And business credit determines if your business loan will get approved, the amount of the loan, or the line of credit, whatever you're doing. You will get the terms and the approvals that you're looking for. Now, this takes time, but with our team, with our loan officers, with our financial advisors, we can help you build business credit systematically and quickly. So it's one of those things. You qualify for something that we talked about today, give us a call, 888-524-9273. Or you want to get started building business credit? We got it in the book form right here, How to Build Business Credit from A to Z. Find out on Amazon. You want to come and get started with us and work with us? We're doing the free funding blueprints right now. Let's just evaluate what your business is at and go see if we can find you some money without any upfront costs. Now, let's say they're going to find you a loan. Perfect. We will talk about, hey, is there an origination fee for that? Let's talk about that before you even move forward. But do you think that that would be a good option for you to know what you at least qualify for? See, folks, the problem is not money. The problem is that we don't necessarily know how to go find the money. We're taking the work out of the equation for you. That's why you need to give us a call, 888-524-9273. Because like I said, there is no shortage of money. Just a shortage of people who will say, hey, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. It's worth a call. I'm going to call the Wise Guys in Ties. I'm going to work with them, Mr. CJ Wallace in the YouTube channel, and I'm going to work with them to see what my business can find. Remember, folks, there's no loss for at least seeing what is out there. The only loss comes by not ever even trying. I want to thank you all so much for being on here with us tonight. I look forward to working with each and every one of you and helping you find the money that you deserve. Good night, and God bless.